This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Cory provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Retirement Group and Wealth Advisors. If you'd like more information about what we discussed today, just feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to click on that radio page. You can check out some previous episodes, and you can also join or subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or Spotify. Also, feel free to visit our YouTube page. You just type in Safe Harbor Retirement Group. You can watch today's show. Really since the beginning of this year, you can watch any Financially Fit Radio on there as well. And then also you can subscribe to keep up with that, but also for our Financially Fit tips. We're putting out about 3 or 4 weekly tips on different types of financial topics. Again, we're here to help address any questions or concerns that you might have. Our goal here is to make sure that you have the retirement that you want. That kind of has a good lead in for today's show. One of the most common things that I think I hear people say is, I want to retire tomorrow. And really, what's that really mean? We all want to retire early, but what are, some of the benefits of it? But what are some of the things you really have to do in order to make sure that you can retire early? But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today?
I'm doing great. You don't have to worry about me, though, Cory. I'm not going to retire early from the show. I'll keep doing the show, as I always say, as long as my voice holds out. But Retiring early does sound fun as far as the day-to-day work grind. And a lot of people would like to retire early, I bet. People I talk to, it'd be great to retire. You reach a certain point with your job, maybe, or your life where, hey, there's other things I want to do. So it would be nice to be able to retire early. And some people probably think they don't or can't retire early. They don't have the money or the plan in place, but they really can, but they need to be working with somebody like yourself, and you can help them figure that out. So I'm glad we're talking about this, and maximizing life and happiness is something we all want to do. I think that's key.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the show today, but hey, it's been a great week. I spent some time with family, and we were talking. I actually finally broke down and washed windows and screens. Not my favorite thing to do, but my wife had a honey-do list, and I finally checked that one off. How about you? Are you keeping busy?
We actually did the same thing this weekend too.
Really? That's crazy.
We I guess it must be that time of the year where you have to get up there and clean all the windows and all the screens and all that type stuff. So definitely did some yard work. It's hard to believe July's already going by here so fast. Summer's coming to, seems, it's just sad.
It is.
The one thing I do enjoy is having, so much sunlight at night. Now we're already on the downturn where it's going to get, you're losing some of that daylight every night, but it's still nice to be able to sit out on the deck around, 8:45, 9 o'clock, and you still have a little bit of sunlight.
Sure. Yeah. Of course, I love fall too. I mean, that's one of my favorite seasons, but you don't want summer to go by so fast, but it really is zipping by us this year.
Yeah.
So now, Cory, we're talking today about retiring early and how to maximize our life and happiness.
Sure.
Where do we begin with this topic?
Well, here's the one thing I would say. We'll talk about some of the other reasons why I think people want to retire. But in order to retire early, you really need to have a solid financial plan, Tony. I mean, you really do. The one thing that you don't want to do is retire early and then you run out, now there's, later on in life, there's a possibility you run out of money, and then you got to go back and maybe work part-time or something to that effect. Right. So, the one thing you want to do is, if you do retire early, is you want to make sure that you work with an advisor, make sure you have a solid plan in place. What is my income going to look like? And here's the one key. You need to also, Tony, make sure that you have inflation built into this as well. We know things are going to cost more as you go through retirement. And that means every year your income needs to increase. And let's face it, if you retire, depending on when you retire, it might just be your assets, Social Security, 401k. You might be fortunate enough to have a pension, but you've had to have done a really good job or a great job of saving to make sure that you can retire early.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, saving is the key, and save early, save often.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And right. So, but from the financial standpoint, you need to know, what is my budget? How much do I need to make? What's that going to increase by if I need to have that increase 2 to 3% per year to keep up with inflation? Is there a chance that I do run out of money? Mm-hmm. So having that financial stability is going to be is such the key. And let's face it, if you retire before the age of 65 too, not only you have to worry about your financial, but now you also have to worry about your health care to fill that gap until you get to Medicare. Mm-hmm. So there's solutions out there for you, but you need to understand what can be done in order to make sure that you have health care, going into retirement as well.
Yeah, healthcare is a big part of it. And I think that that's a key. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about that because people rely heavily on Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans in retirement. But if you retire early, you're not eligible until 65, like you say. And so you have to figure out how to cover healthcare insurance between leaving your job and Medicare. And boy, I know as a fact, COBRA is really expensive, and paying for insurance on your own is really expensive, isn't it?
It is. It is expensive. And, the way some of that stuff works too, Tony, if you are married and if you're under a certain amount of income levels too, you might be able to get some type of relief off of your health care if you make a certain amount of money.
Sure.
And the one thing I always tell people, if you have all your money, we talk about this all the time, Tony, but if you have all your money in IRA money, we know that's 100% taxable, right? But if you actually have some Roth money and maybe some other accounts out there that's really is not taxable, you only have to pay tax on the growth. You can still have a monthly income coming in, but the way the IRS is going to see it is that it's not, your income is going to be lower, which means you actually now might be able to get subsidized from your health care.
Yeah. And you can get through the Affordable Care Act and other means. You might be able to get more affordable insurance anyway. I mean, no health insurance is going to be cheap, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can get down to a few $100s a month if, depending on your situation and the way we actually do some planning. But again, the key to that is to be able to have a plan in order to make all that type of stuff happen. So, but that's some of the things that we do when we sit down with clients that want to retire early. The number one thing, usually the number one thing that comes up is, what's my health care going to look like?
Right.
You got to have it.
Yeah.
We don't know, you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have health care insurance. And then something happens because now it's going to even deplete your savings even more. So yeah, that's definitely a concern that people have. But here's the only thing that I would say is work with an advisor, put together a plan, and part of that plan, in order to retire early, healthcare is going to be part of that solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Healthcare has to be. And I know that you work hard to make that. You've helped a lot of people retire early, and you help them plan for healthcare. that's something that you're, like you said, you and your staff there at Safe Harbor, you have Medicare specialists that you work with there. I think it's great. Yeah. But for our listeners out there, they really want to work with a fiduciary like yourself, somebody who's going to look out for their best interest, look at their situation, and help them achieve their goals, whether that
Sure.
goal is to retire early or buy an RV and travel across the country, but maximize your life and happiness. So what's next when it comes to retiring early?
Well, here's the one thing I will say, Tony. I'm gonna, as people kind of come in and we visit with them, I think the one thing that I would probably say is since COVID took place, more people now want to retire early.
Yeah. More people want to work from home or work part-time or do a side hustle or completely retire early. Right.
And I think just that whole situation that everybody experienced, I think they realize there's more to life than just work.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's really what it is. And the other part of it is you actually had a lot of people that retired and never went back to work because of COVID. So now, if you have friends, say you're in that 60-year range and you have friends that have retired, obviously that's going to make you want to retire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If all your friends retire, or your neighbor is your best buddy and he's retired and he's 61 and he's retired, you're like, hey, maybe I should retire. I could retire.
That's exactly right. So, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are wanting to retire, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, is like, the one thing we're going to talk about going forward here is the non-financial benefits of it. But obviously, the big stress reliever here is if you have a financial plan and you have money and you know what your retirement's going to look like. And you can retire, it's going to be a lot less stressful for you because you have a plan in place. You know that your advisor is giving you the thumbs up. So take advantage of that. But I think, obviously, one of the biggest reasons why people want to retire is, it's going to be allow them to spend more time with their own personal interest, right?
Right.
You get up in the morning, you do what you want to do. And believe me, when I talk to a lot of people, they're saying, I don't even know how I used to work. Right.
Right.
I mean, their calendar's full.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of things but here's the nice part. They're doing things that they want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's spending time with your family or whether it's spending time with friends or getting out and doing golfing or pickleball or whatever that is, you set your own schedule. We've talked about this many times on the show too, Tony, right? When you retire, every day is a Saturday.
Yep.
Right. So you get up and what am I going to do today? Hopefully you have that's the other part we've kind of talked about in the past too, is you also kind of you have to have a plan on how you're going to be able to enjoy your retirement as well.
Yeah.
Right. I can't golf 7 days a week, even though I like to golf. I probably would only want to golf, maybe anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week.
Sure.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to do what you want to be able to do, and I think the other part of this too, Tony, is if you're doing your own personal interest, hopefully one of those things that you're also doing too is trying to improve your health and your well-being. Maybe you're be able to go to the Y or go to work out a little bit or go for some walks or whatever you want to be able to do.
Go to the gym, go to yoga.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, but I think it's a good time for you to focus on yourself where you can, do the things that you need to do physically, go to the gym or walk or whatever you want to be able to do. But now I think you're also in a better situation to even have a better nutrition, have better, be able to sleep better at night. Hopefully a lot of your worries are away. You're not worrying about what your job's going to look like tomorrow. Right. I mean, a lot of people get stressed because of their job. So I think that it's a good time for you to be able to improve your health and your well-being with all this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think that's great, Cory. Obviously, we want to maintain health because then we'll have a happier, longer retirement. and maybe we'll spend less on healthcare in retirement if we can stay healthier. That's a great point. And a lot of people, we've talked about it before on the show, pickleball. You mentioned the why, pickleball, and staying healthy doesn't even have to be expensive in retirement if you don't want it to be. But
no,
yeah,
even if you're on some of those Medicare, some of them have memberships, to gyms.
mm-hmm.
So the gold, I think it's called the Golden Sneaker or
silver sneakers.
Silver sneakers.
Yep,
Yeah,
silver sneakers.
Yeah,
yep.
So you have that ability to be able to maybe even take advantage of that too.
Yeah.
But I think the number one reason why people want to retire, though, Tony, is because now they really have the time to do what they want, and that is to spend time more than likely with their grandchildren
mm-hmm.
or loved ones if you don't have grandchildren. But it seems obviously now with all the activities the grandchildren have, clients come in here all the time and they have a full schedule of just going to games. It seems like, or different types of events to go watch their grandchildren be able to do that. And in some cases, maybe your family's out of state, but now it's going to give you the ability to be able to travel and visit and spend time with them as well. So,
yeah.
And that's a good quality of life. There's nothing better than spending time with your grandchildren, spoil them, and then send them home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I like that idea. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about with them. You have to worry about paying for a lot of the stuff that you don't want to do. Right.
Load them up on sugar and ship them back
home
to their parents.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. That's the grandparents' job. Spoil them, load them full of sugar, and send them back to their parents.
Yep. That's exactly
it's payback on your kids, and you enjoy spoiling the grandkids. Yeah.
And get them gifts, like things that are loud, musical instruments.
A drum set is a good one.
That's exactly right. Give them things that, their parents are going to love on a Saturday morning when they get up.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. That's always kind of funny, about that. But that has to be one of the biggest reasons why people do want to retire, is be able to spend the time with their grandchildren and their family. It's also a good opportunity. We've talked about this too, Tony, but it's a good opportunity for you to maybe seek out other opportunities, right? Maybe you do want to go out and get a part-time job with something that you like, right? Or maybe you want to be able to go in, to a senior center or a community center, and maybe you have some type of expertise that you can teach people, right? Or maybe you want to just be able to. Maybe you always wanted to paint. It's a good time to go out and learn how to paint, or whatever that, whatever that opportunity is. Now you're going to have the time to be able to do that. Again, we've talked about this before. A lot of colleges have, the opportunity for seniors to come in and not pay for school, but sit in classes. It's a good opportunity to be able to learn something new. Whether it's that, or maybe you want to learn some type of skill set, or maybe you want to learn different types of languages, or whatever you want to be able to do. This is the great opportunity to be able to do that. And by doing all these type of things, Tony, it's going to stimulate the mind, which is going to be able to even be better for you, going forward, to hopefully eliminate dementia, Alzheimer's, and things like that as well.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I like that. And have a plan in place. That's a big one. But, retiring early can be great. But again, you have to plan for it. You have to work with somebody like yourself. I mean, you've gone through this retirement process with so many people and helped so many people retire early. I encourage our listeners to work with somebody like yourself who's done retirement planning for years and can help them plan this out.
Yeah, I think that is key. And I do think when you do retire, Tony, I don't think a lot of people want to just sit around and do nothing. I think you want to have I think you'll have a better retirement if you're doing some things where you're getting some type of personal growth out of this too, right?
You have to have a purpose. You have to have goals and a
Right.
reason to get up each day. And like you said, I know a lot of people, and I bet you have a lot of clients who are busier. Like you said, they're busier in retirement than they were before. But then there's the other thing where you retire and, you can only watch TV, like you say, sit around on the couch or read books and watch TV or golf, do things like that so often. You have to have a purpose. So that's where hobbies come into play, grandkids, and you've mentioned a few good examples of that.
Yeah. And obviously, let's talk about one of the other ones that I think when people want to retire. This is the way it normally goes. Well, I want to retire in my 60s and I want to travel, right? So I'm
Yeah,
going to need more
travel's
money
a
in
big
my
one.
60s than I will when I reach my 70s.
Sure.
And usually the response back to that is, well, that sounds fine, where you will have travel, but as you age, what you're going to do is you're going to end up spending more on medical instead of travel.
Yes.
And you're still going to be able to need to increase your money. So again, by having a plan, you can budget for your travel. And maybe later on in life, if you don't need it for travel, maybe that's the budget that's going to go for your health care. But it's not as simple. I understand what a lot of people do because they feel like they can get around and go do things that they've worked all the last 30 or 40 years, and now they want to be able to enjoy this time in retirement. And travel's good, but when you do travel, it does take money, it does take planning. You need just to make sure that's not going to have a big impact later on in life if you've run out of money as well. So, so I think it's always a good thing to be able to travel, but just like anything else, you got to be able to plan for it.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. You have to, I mean, a lot of people think I'm going to buy an RV and travel across the country. Well, those RVs, holy shnikes, those cost a lot of money.
Right.
So you've got to have that in the budget. And don't be afraid to say, this is what we want. How can we achieve this? And then you come back and say, well, here's what you need to do, or here's how long you'll have to work to make it happen, or the money can come from here for that, and things like that.
That's exactly right. So let's kind of step back. I know for a lot of our listeners out there, you do want to retire early. But I think one thing you really need to do is you need to kind of back into if you want to retire at 60, for example, then you probably should start working with an advisor probably at least 10 years prior to that. Right.
Yeah.
And then as you get closer to that time frame and we show you, this is what it's going to look like. 10 years ago, you would have times to adjust things. Maybe I need to save a little bit more. But if you come to us 1 or 2 years before you retire or want to retire, it's kind of where you are. And, we're going to give you a good look at whether you can retire, right? When you kind of go through our process, we put together a financial plan. But I think I think a lot of people are afraid to come in because they don't want to hear that they can't retire. But I think you'll be in a better situation. You'll sleep better at night knowing that, instead of retiring at 60, 62 looks like the age, right? And we're going to be able to tell you that. And I don't think a lot of people realize, by working 1 year or 2 years longer, what that really does to your savings 15, 20 years from now. It's a huge impact if you can wait taking money out. But again, unless you have a plan, you're not going to know whether or not you can retire early.
Right. Yeah, you're not. And a lot of people would be surprised. Maybe they can retire early and they don't think they can. But again, you have to lay out a plan and look at where you're at. And everybody's situation is different, as you always say, Cory. Everybody's situation is different. So go to a financial professional, a fiduciary like yourself, who's going to look at the overall picture, the healthcare, the Social Security, the investments, everything, and say, okay, yes, if you save this or stop working here, we can make this work. But you have to take into account things like taxes and inflation. And we've talked on other shows about those, but they come into play here, don't they? As you talk about retiring.
Yeah, they do. And we didn't really dig down into the details of that today, but that's what the financial plan is going to do.
Sure.
Right. And that's part of it. And when we start putting together your income plan, we're going to take all that stuff into consideration. The only thing you care about is I need X amount per month. And how are we going to give you that X amount per month?
Right.
Obviously, the more buckets for diversification you have on tax from from a tax planning standpoint, you're going to be better off.
Yeah.
But again, if you come to us 10 years prior before you're wanting to retire, we're already going to have that plan in place for you. If you come in and, hey, I want to retire next year, it's kind of what you have is what we have to work with.
Right. So how can our listeners get a hold of you? We're out of time for today's show, Cory. Let them know how they can set up a no charge, no obligation consultation.
Yeah, just give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can just visit our website at safeharboroh.com. Again, all of our meetings are complimentary. There's no financial obligation, and we're here just to help you the best that we possibly can.
All right. Great show today. Thanks, Cory. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio. Thank you for listening to Financially Fit Radio. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Retirement Group. Call 614-760-0670 or visit their website at financiallyfitoh.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.